G'day guys, I've just returned from the Australian ITC Championships where I took home Best in Faction for Chaos Space Marines. So what I wanted to do was release a 9-part series where I'm going to break down the list that I ran to this event to achieve these results with the new changes that are forced upon the Chaos Space Marine players by Arcs of Omen. I'm going to talk about what changes I made to the list to match this new season and how I went about it, what the list was designed to do, those sorts of things. Then I'm going to do a separate installment for each game that we played in this 8-round ITC major event. And basically I'm going to talk about the list that my opponent ran, the results that we got during the game, and the various strategies and situations that led to those results being achieved. So this will be similar to the Men's Masquerade series that I did after I won that GT, but much longer and hopefully much more interesting in a lot of detail. So with that being said, let's just jump straight into the video.
Welcome to the Black God.
G'day guys, welcome to the 9th and final installment on my Black Legion Australian ITC Championships summary series of videos. Basically in this installment number 1, I go through my Black Legion list that I took to the Australian ITC Championships in great detail. I break down every warlord trait, every stratagem, every unit, every upgrade, every combo that I had planned in this list. I break it down in great detail. Then in every other installment, I'm picking one of the matchups, going through my opponent's list in great detail, going through the scoreboard in great detail, and then talking about the various tactics and strategies that were employed during the game to achieve those scores. So with that being said, this is the 9th installment, which was the 8th round on this ITC major event. And let's break down the list that I faced, and we'll get stuck straight into it. So I played Nathan Prince and his Adeptus Custodes. So he had, again, Emperor's Chosen, just like Brian Lakeland did in round 7. And he also had an allied detachment of Imperial Knights, which were Questor Imperialis with the Chivalric Oath mixed army. So he had Knight Centurion with a Mastercrafted Bolt Gun. He had a Shield Captain on Dawn Eagle jet bike with Auric Exemplar, Superior Creation, Castellan's Vault, Misericordia, Salvo Launcher, Victor of the Blood Games, Tip of the Spear, and he was the Warlord. He then had 2 units of 3 Custodian Guard with Sentinel Blade, Shield, so basically Sword and Board Guard, 2 units of 3. He had a unit of Sisters of Silence Prosecutors with a Sister Superior, and they all had bolt guns. Then he had 2 units of a single Alaris Custodian with a Guardian Spear. And this is where it gets interesting. So he had a Contemptor Achilles Dreadnought with a Lazstrom Stormbolter. He had 3 Venerable Contemptor Dreadnoughts with multi-melters. He had a Palace Grav Tank. He had 2 Calidus Grav Tanks with the Illustrious Accelerator Cannon. And then he had an Armiger Helverin, which was a free blade with the Martial Tradition Hunter of Beasts, Questor Imperialis, Questor Iron Hail Heavy Stubber. Alright, so once again, coming straight out of a loss into Brian Lakeland's Custodes, I was a little nervous going into this matchup. However, this list was very different. This list was very mech heavy, Brian's was very infantry heavy. So a very different list dealing with the Dreadnoughts. There was lots of neg 1 damage running around, which is something that my list particularly isn't interested in because I do a lot of 1 damage or mortal wounds or high damage with the multi-melters, which are like D6 plus 2. So the neg 1 damage wasn't that big of a deal for me. But the invulnerable saves, the high toughness, the 4-up Feel No Pain against those mortal wounds, all of these things were still very relevant, as is Tanglefoot Grenade. So let's get into this list. We've got into the list, let's get into the scoreboard and break down how this game unfolded. Okay, so Nathan Princey, he had primary of 12 points. He had a sub-primary of 8 points. He got 3 points for Raise the Banners High. He got 4 points for Behind Enemy Lines, and he got 0 points for Grind Them Down, which gave him a grand total of 37, including Battle Ready. Whereas I got a 93-point win, 45 points with a primary, 12 points out of the sub-primary, 12 points out of Warp Ritual, 12 points out of Bring It Down, 15 points out of behind enemy lines. So a big 93-point win. Now, this game was an absolute emotional roller coaster. So basically, I got the first turn. No, he got the first turn and basically moved up into the center. He moved his dreadnoughts out. He fanned his units out, so he was basically trying to control the midfield. He raised a couple of banners, those sorts of things. Then in my turn, I rolled my illusory supplication and failed. And I'm like, that's an absolute disaster because Custodes are so much worse when I have that. Because they're going to be hitting on 2s with rerolls. I can make them hitting on 4s with no rerolls. That's a massive shift in damage output. So I'm like, God damn it, if I go out there, I'm going to die. So do I just stay here and wait for next turn and try for that illusory supplication again? I'm hidden, he can't shoot me, I'm safe. But I'm like, but if I wait another turn, he's going to just take over the table. And then I'm going to not be able to, I might as well not be able to teleport at all because he's going to already be everywhere. So I'm like, you know what, fuck it. It's the last game of the event. And once again, like I said, the pod system meant that this game didn't necessarily matter because I was basically locked into never getting worse than 20th and never getting better than 17th place, regardless of the result of this game. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to just have fun. A quick game's a good game. Let's just go full send with the Terminators and try and do as much damage as possible, right? And then if they die in return, that's fine. So I basically sent them out with Abaddon, with all the characters, did all the stuff, failed Delightful Agonies. So I'm like, well, now they're definitely dead, right? Because they can't dodge the hits and they can't dodge the damage. So they're going to get all of their multi-layered defense. Several layers are showing some serious cracks. So I'm like, all right, fine. Send them in. Did the kill one in the psychic phase, resurrect him closer, so I got a really good charge. Even through Tanglefoot, he's not able to really stop me. And then basically with the reroll hits and wounds with shooting, I put all of that into the vehicles because the vehicles can't turn off your rerolls to hit and wound. So I basically went cool, killed like 2 of his dreadnoughts with the shooting, one of them with melter guns, one of them with bolters. Then I charged a unit of Custodian Guard and another dreadnought, killed both of those, and then tagged another. Then in his turn, he's in combat with me, so he's going to fall back. When he falls back, I spent 2 CP to shoot him on the way out and killed another one. So before he's had an opportunity to bring damage to bear, I've killed almost all of his dreadnoughts and a unit of Custodian Guard. So even though I thought it was game over for me when I failed Illusory, and then I was certain that it was game over when I failed Delightful Agonies, the aggressive push on those Terminators was enough to do irreparable damage to his army. And then he basically shot at me with a bunch of stuff, but wasn't able to do any meaningful damage because he had not enough shooting left. So he killed like 3 or 4 of the Terminators, but then we went into my next turn and I was able to go cool, resurrecting Terminators, sending them in again, bringing in the Heck Brutes, bringing in the Decimators, and doing just phenomenal amounts of damage there. The Heck Brutes, but one of the big mistakes that Nathan made was he moved his units really close. We were playing a table quarters mission, so my long table edge was here. He was deployed over there, and he basically moved his tanks around this way, really, really close to my table edge, and also really close to my deployment zone. So when I brought the Heck Brutes in, I was able to bring them in so that they were just outside of 1 inch of his vehicles, and then I was able to shoot these vehicles and then charge that vehicle with pretty much an automatic charge with multiple Heck Brutes. So that was a huge mistake on his end that I really capitalized on. The other big mistake that he made was clustering all of his dreadnoughts together, because it basically just meant the Terminators were able to roll through that cluster. Whereas if he had them layered behind each other, I would only be able to really get in combat with the front one, and the ones behind would probably be outside of my melter range, so I'm not going to be doing massive amounts of damage there. But because he had them all clustered, I was able to go, cool, the Terminator's dropping down, all of their melter guns are going to hit this one that's not the front one, the next one back, kill that, and then I'm going to be able to charge the one at the front, kill that. So because they were all clustered, I was able to do massive amounts of damage, whereas if he spread out more, then I wouldn't have been able to do so. So that was a huge mistake made on his side, as was moving too close to my deployment zone, and I was able to use those 2 mistakes to flip that matchup, even though I had failed Illusory, and even though I had failed Delightful Agonies. So that was really interesting. And basically, I was practically ready to concede at the start of my first turn, or after my first psychic phase. I was practically, oh, well, I can't win now, so let's just see what happens. But then literally the amount of damage that I did was just next level, to the point where at the start of his next turn, he was like, well, now I can't win. So was quite the emotional roller coaster of a game. Nathan was an absolute legend. It was probably one of my most enjoyable games of the event, just in terms of the laughter and the banter and the enjoyment of the game. So that was just a ton of fun. We both laughed. I think we were both just sort of blowing off some steam because it had been a long 8 games. It had been a long 3 days. So yeah, I think we were both just looking to have some fun with it, and we achieved that very much so. So other notable things in that game were the shoot on death with the Heck Brutes. I know I've mentioned that in every episode of this installment series thing, but it's so powerful. It's so good. In this game, I was able to use it to kill a Rhino because he basically moved. Actually, no, he didn't have a Rhino. I'm thinking of Brian's game. This game, I was able to use it to kill the Virtus Praetor Shield Captain guy, the Dawn Eagle guy. So, yeah, there's just things like that. Really, really powerful with Heck Brutes. Also, being able to come on from strat reserves, if your opponent slips up and gets too close to your deployment zone, you can just walk straight into combat. Like, you don't even need to be, you literally count as having charged, and you can walk on in engagement range. So I was intentionally not doing that because I wanted to be able to shoot. So I walk on just an inch away, just outside of an inch, shoot some stuff, and then charge in. But if your opponent had something that had really particularly scary Overwatch or something like that, and they came too close to your edge, you could just walk into combat. Really, really strong stuff. So yeah, I highly recommend the Hell Brutes, the Heck Brutes. Let's make that stick. They're Heck Brutes. But yeah, I really rate them. I would like to deep dive them. I might even do a Heck Brute masterclass coming up. My voice has just gone because I've just recorded 9 installments in a row. So thanks for tuning in, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Make sure to check out our Patreon. Over there, you can get shirts like this on our Teespring site. We've got neoprene objective markers. We've got Patreon exclusive dice that you can only get through our Patreon. And also, this month, we're giving away a 3D printed Angron. The idea is that he'll be in your hands before the World Leaders Codex even hits the shelves, which means you will have time to build and paint him before you get the Codex and hit the tabletops in early Feb. So if you want to join the Patreon and get in on that competition, head over to the Patreon. There's information there on how you can go about joining. And yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.
Blood to the Black God.